Hey there, and welcome to @Global Pulse Nuz. Buckle up, because today we are diving into a story that feels part market crash, part regulatory drama, part human interest roller coaster, and yes, part, wait, did I just hear that correctly? Moment. Imagine coming across this. BOMA ILI LADZA NDIMAVUVU SAKUVA MUNTHU. AWOTCHA KATUNDU OCHULUKA ANTHU AIYITOKOTERA IYIYI. A mouthful, right? But behind those words lies a full-blown surge of goods, regulatory upset, market shakeups, and real human consequences in Malawi. So if you think you're just watching another news clip, think again. We're going deep today. What is happening, why it matters, and how you might already be affected even if you're only buying the occasional soda or phone charger. We'll break it down fact by fact, with clarity, wit, edge, and that Malawian news tone vibe that keeps it real. Stay with us. You'll leave smarter about markets, regulation, human impact, and maybe you'll spot the next wave before the wave hits. Let's get started. Okay, first up, picture a flood. No, scratch that. A tidal wave of goods crashing into a marketplace like a freight train without brakes. That's what we're seeing with KATUNDU OCHULUKA. That's lots and lots of goods suddenly arriving where fewer were expected. Now, when I say goods, we're talking everything from household items to electronics to imports that bypass the usual slow drip. The result? Supply overshoots demand, margins get squeezed, sellers scratch their heads, and buyers start saying, why are these things everywhere all at once? On top of that, when the goods flow in quicker than expected, the usual checks and balances struggle to keep up. Storage, customs, tracking, all of it bursts at the seams. So you get weird price drops, weird inventory surges, and the whole market's heartbeat goes into turbo mode. And this is where the phrase BOMA ILI LADZA NDIMAVUVU SAKUVA MUNTHU starts to bite. The BOMA, or authority, sees lots of goods, yet people involved or processes might not be visible. It's as if lots of fish, vuvuvu, arrived, but no one's showing the fisherman, MUNTHU. That gap? That's trouble. And the marketplace is never the same once the flood hits. Hold on tight. Now that you've seen the tsunami hit the shore, the next fact shows who is left picking up the pieces and why the regulator is getting seriously annoyed. Now let's shift our lens to the regulator, the BOMA in this drama. Why all the frowns, the memos, the tightened rules? Simple. When this flood of goods arrives, the state apparatus is supposed to check, tax, regulate, inspect, but what's happening is goods slip through, values are understated, origin is murky, and suddenly you've got NDIMAVUVU SAKUVA MUNTHU. Lots of goods, but fewer people visible doing the work or following the paperwork. The authority is saying, wait a minute, we expected this, we expected that, but what we're seeing here isn't lining up. And when they chase after documents, inspect warehouses, audit imports, you see the gear is grinding. The scene looks like a chaotic jam where the policeman turns up after the crash and asks, so who hit who? Meanwhile, the market's already moving on. The BOMA gets grumpy because revenue falls, regulation gets weakened, unfair competition rises, and enforcement costs soar. This is not just red tape, this is the system trying to hold together while a flood crashes through. When the regulator says enough, the market shifts. And if you're part of that market, seller or buyer, you'll feel the aftershock. You thought that was heavy? Wait until you see who really takes the hit and the human story behind the numbers. Fact 3 coming right up. All right, folks, time to get real. This isn't just spreadsheets and warehouses. It's human lives. When the flood of goods swamps the market, everyday folks, the small traders, the vendors, who used to rely on stable supply and predictable margins, get caught in the crossfire. You expected to sell your batch of goods at a fair price, keep your margin, support your family, but suddenly the market is flooded. Prices tumble, competition skyrockets, and your margin disappears. It's like you were playing a quiet game of chess, and bam, the board flips, and everyone starts playing checkers. The crowd sees their incomes threatened, livelihoods at risk, and frustration builds. Why is my business crumbling when all these goods just showed up? And then the regulator starts flexing its muscle, and the vendor says, well, which way do we go? So the human element, stress, uncertainty, competition, social impact, real people standing in front of shelves wondering if they'll still survive tomorrow. And in Malawi, that matters because markets are often local, margins tight, trust important, relationships matter. So when this disruption hits, it's not just business, it's community. And when the community's upset, the system feels the tremor. Stick around, because while individuals feel it, the next fact shows how even the big players are getting rocked. Big fish, big waves. Fact 4 next.
Yes, you heard right. It's not only the small vendor on the ground getting squeezed. The big corporates, the importers, the distributors are all feeling heat too. Why? Because when cheap or unregulated goods flood the market, the competitive landscape shifts. Established businesses that followed rules, spent money on compliance, built relationships, paid taxes, they now face unfair competition from goods that slipped past or arrived from gray channels. Imagine you've built a castle with bricks and mortar, and then someone drops a prefab house next door for half price without checking building permits. You'd raise your eyebrows. And that's exactly what's happening. The big players see their margins shrink, pricing models thrown off, inventories unpredictable, and the BOMAs turning up with tighter inspections, new duties, compliance demands. So the big businesses in the crosshairs are pressured from two sides, the flood of goods undercutting them and the regulator moving faster to tighten the net. And when the big guys start to wobble, the ripple effect flows through the supply chain, through jobs, through investment. Suddenly, what looked like a niche import story becomes a macro issue. Ready for the domino effect? Because here in fact number 5, we show you how all these shifts, flood, regulation, individuals, big business, connect in one wave that could sweep entire sectors. So here we are, the flood of goods, the regulator's reaction, the small guys squeezed, the big guys rattled, and now we see how it all cascades. Think of a row of dominoes set up. The first tile, goods arrival, tips the next, regulation scramble, then the next, small vendor stress, then the next, big business wobble, and then the next, consumer choices change, and so on. When prices tumble fast, quality signals get weaker, consumer trust erodes. When suppliers scramble, service reliability suffers. When regulation tightens, costs go up and risk rises. And when big distributors rethink operations, jobs may shift, investment may redirect. So one event triggers many. For someone buying everyday items, you might see odd discounts now, then odd shortages later. For someone doing business, you might see margin collapse, then supply chain disruption. This domino chain is not hypothetical. It's happening in Malawi's market right now. What began as an influx has moved through layers until the entire ecosystem is showing stress signs. And here's the kicker. Markets that look stable may not feel stable anymore. The domino effect means that a small tremor becomes a full quake. If you're watching, you see the freak patterns, sudden price dips, then strange stockouts, then regulator moves, then buyer caution, and the cycle spins. But hold up, because amid all this disruption, you might expect only losers. Yet in fact number 6, we highlight a surprise. There are winners too. Yes, you, and those agile players who saw this wave coming. Here's a twist you didn't expect. While lots of folks are scrambling, there are some who are winning. They're nimble, quick on their feet, spotting the oversupply, spotting regulatory gaps, spotting shifting consumer behavior, and they pivot. Perhaps they specialize in verification services, authenticity checks, quality assurance. Perhaps they specialize in niche branding that stands out when generic flood hits. Or maybe they buy early, when others hesitate, and ride the bargain wave smartly. It's like being the lifeguard who runs onto the wave instead of being swept by it. If you're paying attention, you'll see folks in Malawi doing exactly that. They might not be the giants, but they're the agile ones. So as the big players groan and the small vendors sweat, these winners emerge. They adapt, they innovate, they serve the new terrain. That means when you think everything is chaotic, there's opportunity. And when opportunity is there, watch it.
because in Malawi's market, as elsewhere, disruption often breeds innovation. So yes, while many ride the wave, some surf it. And that changes the game for the future. You thought that was all? Nope. Fact number 7 takes us into the tech zone, how tracking, data, and digital tools are reshaping the motion. Get ready.
All right, let's go digital for a moment. Because while the flood and human drama and regulation make the headlines, what happens behind the scenes often gets powered by technology. In this case, tracking systems, barcodes, customs databases, smartphone apps, even logistics software that flags unusual shipments. In Malawi, the regulatory authority is increasingly adopting these tools, trying to plug the holes the flood created. When goods arrive fast and volumes balloon, manual checks can't keep up. But algorithms, data matching tools, digital audits, they help catch anomalies. So if you're a seller or buyer who ignores this tech shift, you're like someone driving the old model when everyone else drives electric. You'll be left behind. For importers and distributors, it means investment in digital compliance, in traceability, in accountability. For regulators, it means visibility and control they lacked earlier. And for consumers, it means better chance of seeing quality verified, origin proven, value secured. So the tech plays aren't optional, they're becoming central. In Malawi's context, where markets are dynamic, infrastructure variable, and regulation evolving, tech becomes the backbone of the new market reality. And those who adopt early often gain the competitive edge. Cool. We're halfway through the ride. Now Fact 8 shows what it means for you, the everyday person, not just the vendor or regulator. Stay tuned. Okay, let's bring this closer to home. You, me, the person who walks into a shop in Lilongwe, Blantyre, or Chitipa and buys something. What does this full-blown story of floods, regulation, tech, and winners mean for you? 2 big things. First, prices might drop because supply surged, but quality or regulation might suffer too. If goods bypass proper checks, you might get a bargain, but you might also get a dud. Second, your favorite brand or supplier might be pressured by the flood. They might change service, change warranty, change stock. That means your safe choice might not feel as safe. So you'll need to become a smarter buyer. Ask about origin, ask about warranty, compare suppliers. You'll notice more variability in pricing and availability. You might say, hey, these goods are cheap, great. Or you might say, why is this brand now struggling? It's a new terrain. In Malawi's market, where personal trust matters, where relationships between buyer and seller matter, this shift is huge. Suddenly, your decision isn't just, do I like this product, but do I trust this product's path to me? And as consumers globally have shown, trust now is a premium. So this story matters for your next purchase. It might determine whether you're getting value or vulnerability. Almost there. We've seen the winners and the regulars. Now Fact 9 identifies the red flags you should watch for, because knowledge equals protection. Here's your defense playbook. What to watch out for when the market shifts like this. Red flag number 1. Goods arriving suspiciously fast or at volumes that seem off. If you see a shipment labeled extreme imports and the price is crazy low, pause. Red flag number 2. Unclear origin, vague paperwork, cheaper because unregulated talk. That can mean corners were cut. Red flag number 3. Sellers cutting warranty, offering too good to be true terms, or pumping volume over service. If it looks like a bargain but the follow-through is missing, alert. In Malawi, trust, regulation, and brand matter a lot. So when you see these signs, you're entering risky territory. The regulator might step in, service might vanish, or product may fail. So keep eyes open, ask questions, check origin, talk to people who've purchased, stay skeptical. And remember, in a flood scenario, cheap isn't always value. Sometimes it's weakness disguised. You want to avoid being the one who buys the cheap version and later pays the price. That's the difference between being an informed buyer and being a casualty of market upheaval. All right, last stop. Fact 10 gives you the game plan, what you actually do from here to surf the wave, not drown under it. Here we are, the moment of action. If you followed along, you now know the flood, you know the regulator, you know the human impact, you know the winners, you know the tech, you know what it means for you, you know the red flags. Now, what should you do? First, always confirm origin and regulation of goods you buy. Ask, where did it come from? And was the process followed? Second, monitor pricing trends, not just bargains, but consistency across suppliers. If one supplier is way under everyone else, ask why. Third, align with trustworthy sellers who follow rules and deliver service. Yes, they may cost a bit more. Worth it. Fourth, adopt the tech mindset. Even if you're just a buyer, check serial numbers, use apps, ask for documentation. Fifth, keep an eye on official announcements from the BOMA and regulatory bodies, because when regulation changes fast, you want to be ahead, not behind. Lastly, shift your mindset. Don't just ride the wave, learn to surf it. Be proactive, not reactive. So in Malawi's market terrain, you become the smart player. You anticipate, you ask, you verify. Then you're not just part of the story, you shape your own outcome. We've played through all 10 facts, so now let's wrap it up in style. So, there you have it. That mouthful phrase, BOMA ILI LADZA NDIMAVUVU SAKUVA za MUNTHU, AWOTCHA KATUNDU OCHULUKA ANTHU AIYITOKOTERA IYIYI, isn't just gibberish, it's a full-on market saga. Goods flooding in, regulators scrambling, people scrambling, winners emerging, tech shifting, consumers adapting. And the key takeaway? Markets aren't just about supply and demand, they're about people, regulation, trust, behavior. For you, whether you're buying, selling, or just observing, this story matters because we live in a connected economy where what happens in one niche ripples everywhere. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button, subscribe to Global Pulse News for bold takes, drop a comment below with your thoughts. What do you expect will happen next in the market? And make sure you tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Stay sharp, stay curious, and above all, stay bold. Until next time, from Malawi and beyond, we'll keep our pulse on the global market so you don't have to figure it all out alone. Tiwanana, and thanks for watching.